Hello Dino Peeps! First and foremost, I'm not a fan of Snail Games. Quite the opposite actually. I think they have ruined a lot of things for us players, no matter if PvE or PvP. They have overstepped boundaries that should be non-negotiable. Basically every game they touched aside from Ark was doomed at launch. I wanted to love Dark and Light, but it never reached a playable state and then it was abandoned when the players disappeared. The only game I still consider quite enjoyable is PixArk, which I suggested to friends to buy for their kids that are still too young to play Ark, but they wanted to play a more child-friendly version of Ark. But no, I'm not a fan of Snail. Never was and never will be. With that out of the way, I have read a lot of your comments attacking me for not issuing a statement, boycotting Ark, or even people getting mad at me for speaking positively and hopeful about Ark and Ark Survival Ascended. And this is because I enjoy the game. I spent thousands and thousands of hours in the game since it got released. I have 2 YouTube channels for Ark helping players understanding and mastering game mechanics, and last year I launched an online magazine for Ark that provides detailed explanations and guides. Because let's be honest, most content online was written by soulless AI bots and have nothing to do with the game. We programmed a third-party tool website to help Ark players, and in my free time I help out with the support of Ark Smart Breeding, a program that many of you probably know, especially when you're breeders. So I'm quite active in the Ark realm and I have contact to a lot of members of the community and even content creators. In December last year I reached out to Nettie when the rumor came up that Ark would integrate crypto and NFTs into the game. We both shared very similar opinions about it and talked a lot about the consequences it would have for Ark in the community. At that point I even considered stopping with my Ark content if that ever happened, because there was no way I would want to risk any of my viewers getting dragged into a finance scam. Luckily the NFT stuff got debunked, but it was surely a scare. Shortly after I first stumbled upon the Snail controversies. I found a video that Nettie did in 2018 and then privated afterwards. I asked him if he had more info about it because I wanted to look into it and he gave me his sources. You probably all know the voice chat and messenger recordings by the T-Tribe that led to YouTubers getting striked or claimed in the past. The research continued for the rest of the month and we found new things almost daily. We not only went through every press article possible, but also through legal documents that were published and even Ark unrelated press articles about Snail. All of the things we found were terrifying and absolutely shattering. And if I'm completely honest, I was shocked by all of this info that came out day by day. And it gave me quite an existential crisis if I should go on with what I do. I was not only shocked by how ruthless Snail seemed to have acted in a position of power and money. I mean, we need to keep in mind there was a billionaire who threw tantrums over losing in a dinosaur game. But I was also shocked about what terrible working conditions the Ark developers had worked over the past years. And if you don't know the whole story, I try to wrap it up in a few sentences. The Snail CEO apparently hired hundreds of people to play in his PvP tribe, yelled and threatened those people constantly, even called them his slaves. But then also tried to blackmail and pressure the Wildcard devs into helping him compensate his bad PvP skills. Wildcard did fight back against it to the point where the devs almost walked out on Snail Games, abandoning Ark if Snail doesn't stop ruining things. But we all know the best way of hiding the truth is silencing people. And of course everyone at Wildcard is under NDA. If you ever worked in a fairly big company where you have a position with responsibility, you know that you simply can't speak about it. And that's fine. But here I feel like it's being abused. Some previous devs did mention things. According to them, they were threatened that their life would be destroyed when they're speaking up, and that despite them not working with the company anymore. And you may not think, why doesn't Wildcard just leave? They have enough money now, they can just develop Ark on their own. They can't. I know a lot of creators talked about freeing Wildcard, freeing Ark from Snail, but honestly, you're 8 years too late. Wildcard, Ark and everything belongs to Snail. It does 98% of their revenue. They won't just sell their biggest moneymaker. CEOs like that don't become billionaires by making reasonable and fair decisions. If you want the devs out of the situation, the only way is by abandoning Ark and everything planned with it. And then the devs probably even have a non-compete agreement in their contracts that doesn't allow them to work on a similar project again for the next few years. So there is no real solution that wouldn't mean that Ark will end one way or another. So, why do I still support Wildcard when not supporting Snail Games? I did think about this very long. The revelations we found were shocking and terrifying, but what the fuck? How horrible is it to work in an environment like this? How horrible is it to have your baby, your game, hand it over to a tyrant. You want this thing to grow up to what you have imagined and hoped for, but there's always this part of your dream and your plan that can ruin the most perfect thing at any time, like walking on eggshells. I sympathize with the devs because they didn't leave. They didn't just turn around despite getting terrorized at work and terrorized at their private life. They wanted to make Ark for the community. They still believe in Ark. They still have a passion for the game and the community. And despite how much backlash they have gotten from the community for things that Snail just simply messed up and ruined, they were staying calm and tried their best. I support the devs for all of the hardship they have gone through for us, and all the risks they took because of us. They didn't have to, but they chose to. And honestly, I have 13,000 hours in the game. I've seen hardly any games that have had so many people playing so much aside from maybe MMOs. Ark is a good game. Of course, it has its flaws, but it's ambitious. It goes into depths with game mechanics that other games only scratch on the surface. And the devs want this to succeed, and so do I. Even if that means for me that Snail gets the money, it also means for me that I support the dreams and the ideas of a dev team that has worked hard in the past years to make this possible. There's almost no chance you will hear a statement about this, because if the threat of ruining your life is in the room, you think twice if it is reasonable to make a point, and then losing your employment, your income, your livelihood, and the chance to work in the field for the next years. Life is more than just a dinosaur game. Adult responsibilities for your family and or your children should always come first, and I can't blame anyone for that. If you have a problem with that, you should start criticizing the system for doing business like that, but not the people suffering under it. In the past few months after the topic came up, I was disappointed how little differentiation there was made between what Snail did and what Wildcard does, especially because the sources were freely available. And I know some people who are holding a grudge against Wildcard think it's very convenient to blur the lines here. But no matter how much you like or dislike something, it should never lead to misrepresenting how the things are, especially when you can read things up, because it will always hurt the whole situation. And I think we're now at the point where it doesn't matter what I say or anyone says, because the majority either has already formed an opinion, and people are really bad in changing their opinion when new points are made, or people simply don't care. What I can tell you in the end is this, that it's your own personal decision if you want to support the game and the franchise or not. I understand when you don't want to draw a line between Wildcard and Snail Games and you decide not to buy the games by them. Most of you are adults and you can make your own informed decision. But I also think people should be allowed their escapism when playing Ark. Don't tell people that their decision to stick with a franchise they love and in which they have beautiful memories is due to their own moral corruption, when every single content creator who's now asking for you to boycott Ark will probably buy Ark Survival Ascended first day. You can probably see why this video is not an easy one to make, and why it's not easy as saying Wildcard Snail bad, player good. Most issues are way more complex when you look into it further. And I know it's easier to focus on all the hate on something and make this your whole personality, but this doesn't help anyone, not even yourself. And as a final point though, this channel has never been a hateful channel or an angry channel. I personally think anger is a waste of time and energy, and it's better finding solutions for problems. But it sucks that I don't have a solution for this, but supporting the devs, their work and their ideas is the best solution for me. You, like I said, you decide for yourself.